Nesse momento só se fala nela, Camille Paglia, a intelectual mais polêmica da América. Professora da Universidade de Artes da Filadélfia, essa ex-feminista militante se tornou uma superstar da mídia mundial. Ela sacode as cabeças pensantes com suas ideias radicais e afirmações bombásticas. Todas as feministas são umas neuróticas com problemas sexuais. Madonna é o futuro do feminismo. Os homens são muito mais fracos que as mulheres. No estupro, geralmente a culpa é da mulher. Algumas dessas e outras você vai ver agora na nossa entrevista com Camille Paglia.
I'm ready. Shoot. Roll them. Roll them. Right.
So you said that you are a character now.
Yeah.
Are you a character now?
Yeah.
A strong one.
Yeah, because in America we have a tradition of these sort of crackpot female figures like Annie Oakley. Like 100 years ago, there was a real-life woman, Annie Oakley, who was a sharpshooter with pistols and who did shows all around the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like that. I'm like Dorothy Parker. I'm like who had many penetrating one-line, very acerbic wit. I'm like Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt was kind of a crank, who went around.
Katharine Hepburn.
Katharine Hepburn. I'm just like Katharine, or Betty Davis, who's also Yankee from New England and so on. So see, I've caught the popular imagination outside of academia because I'm just this isolated person who goes around and tells people off and defies the establishment and is sort of like a maiden lady.
A strong woman.
Strong but rather absurd. There's something absurd about my energy level and intensity.
Absurd in what sense?
Funny.
In the common sense?
No, it's like I'm like comical. I'm a comical character.
Well, but, okay, but you yourself, nothing comparing with something because, it's not absurd to be comical.
No, but the fact that I'm just so opinionated. I mean, you see, actually, in Italian culture, we have these like little old ladies. They're 80 years old. They're little widows in black. They have a hairnet on. They run around. That's what I am.
And they know exactly what they want.
Oh, they're fierce.
Yes,
they're fierce.
fierce.
Oh, yes, the widows. And so that's what I'm like. You see, I'm like a kind of nun figure. Like my cousin is a nun.
We're going to talk about this.
All right.
Tell me something about this the end of this millennium now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What is your vision about the fin du siècle?
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel number one, that modernism, which has been a burden on the Western imagination for something like 80 years, is coming to an end. That is the idea that there is no meaning, that there is no hope, there's no belief, that everything is in fragments. I think that is utterly passé. In my generation of the 1960s in America, with our rock and roll, we thought we had killed it, but that it's still existing in postmodernism and Lacan, Derrida, and Foucault. This is evil. It's poisonous. It poisons the mind. It's death. It's a prescription for death. So I think what's happening now at the end of the century, my generation was the first to be totally influenced by popular culture. I was produced by the television generation. I've been listening to rock music for 35 years now, nonstop.
You are a very eclectic person.
Yes.
And you have this mix, this mixed culture, that pop culture and mass media, astrology, everything together.
All this, and the great art tradition. See, I'm the first, I think, to be able to finally make one big panorama showing that popular culture is not a break from the great Western past, but a continuation of, in fact, a revival of the buried pagan elements in Western culture. So I have united in one system of perception the most ancient artifacts of human history, from cave art to ancient Egypt to Greece, to unite that with the Rolling Stones, with soap operas, you know, with television and so on. And I think that is the great bequest of my generation. Unfortunately, so many members of my generation that should have been my peers in producing great works knocked themselves out with the drugs. The drugs destroyed my generation.
But do you think this mix, why shouldn't they take it seriously? I mean, you know, there is a part of intellectual stuff. They say, oh, this is not serious because it's too... You said, I am proud of being in Playboy magazine, from Playboy magazine to Greeks.
Right. You see, and the thing is, the people who talk like that are either born before World War II or they've been brainwashed by people born before World War II. So often today in the Ivy League, at Harvard, at Yale, at Princeton, you get this like negative talk about television coming from the Frankfurt School. We're talking about 1930s kind of ideas from Germany. Give me a break. We have America, you know, I mean, this is like, look how many years later this is. We have the right to create new paradigms, new ways of talking about popular culture. So to me, I never use big abstractions or language that looks down at it, has contempt for popular culture. I'm trying to find a language that describes our sensory experience of like what I call the trash and flash element. Yes, in the sensationalistic, the cheapest, trashiest elements of popular culture are what I love. Okay, I love anything that shows the nude human body. I love murder scandals, celebrities. I love all that. Gossip. That's the world. The youth of the world are united in this new style. But academic writers have not provided the language of the discourse that can describe this mega world phenomenon.
Would you describe this like the face or the mask, if you want, of the 90s?
Oh yes, of the 21st century. You see, we have a series, Star Trek. I don't know if you are acquainted with this series that shows the future of mankind in these great space stations, really living life through TV screens, giant TV screens. And I think that is the future, and in America is the future. Right now, I mean, I have 3 televisions in my home. I have many channels. I live and I float in television reality. I love television.
And tell me, in this mix of everything together, talking about relationship, about marriage, we still have a conventional marriage, for instance, the same bourgeois roles. You are from the 60s generation.
Right.
What has changed?
Well, in America, my generation of the 60s rebelled against the 50s conformism, a period when there were very rigid sex roles, and women had to, like men, be deferential to men, and their whole meaning and value in life was in terms of men. Now, I rebelled against that. Early on, I was born in 1947, and I was unusual, highly unusual, in wanting a career as a child. And at first I thought I was a lesbian and so on. For 20 years of my life, I lived as an open lesbian, even though my dating life was zero. Okay, I could, and lesbians don't really like me, and now I'm officially bisexual. But the point is, I have lived my life away from men. That is, I'm attracted to men. I may sleep with men, but I've never lived with a man, and I've never been in service to any man. So my record in terms of confrontationalism with men is better than any leading feminist. Okay, that I'm challenging, like Gloria Steinem or Susan Flutie. Their record with men is far worse than mine. They have been weak toward men. I mean, that's why I can give men a break. I can be nice to men because I've never been weak or exploited by men. I've drawn that line. And the thing is, I think that my generation tried to break all the old formulas on rules and stereotypes. And now, I think in the 1990s, we're looking back again and realizing that this breaking of all the old forms has not brought happiness, and that in point of fact, there is something that is female, there is something that is male, and that maybe there's a loss of identity when people try to merge the sexes and make say, oh, the sexes are exactly the same. We should look for androgyny. Now I think we're in a period of the 1990s. Each gender is looking for its own identity, and the way I'm saying we have to do it is look to the past instead of saying, no, we're making a sharp break with the past. Looking at the full range of human experience and trying to find out what we have been as genders.
But I mean, the same marriages, the same jealousy rules, the same stuff?
Well, see, I think that we have to look closely at what love is. It may be that before feminism, okay, that women actually had more freedom among themselves. There was a world of women and a world of men. And actually, people were happier than they are now. When we have men and women demanding happiness from personal romantic relationships, oddly enough, the more we demand that happiness and fulfillment and equality, the less satisfied we feel. So I'm saying that possibly the sexes are at war. Maybe that's the permanent condition. That is why the sexes are interested in each other and in love with each other in a attracted to each other because they can never understand each other fully, and that we may have to accept this abyss between the sexes. And I think that feminism, seeing this problems and the turbulence between the sexes, blames it on men. Men, you are responsible.
He's guilty.
He's guilty. He must change. Man must change for female happiness. I'm saying, like Katharine Hepburn, let's look at this again. Maybe what I'm saying is that woman is the dominant sex, is what I'm saying. That is the great change I have made in current feminism, because current feminism was obsessed with victims and victimology. Man as the oppressor and tyrant, woman as the victim. And I said, nonsense. Woman is dominant, man is merely a fragment of woman. And that all the things that men are doing that are unpalatable or unsavory, like battering of wives, rape, all kinds of violence toward women, may be coming out of men's humiliating sense of dependency on woman, okay? When woman knows her power, she can control man better.
After centuries, Camille, why sex is still a hot subject?
We are sexual in our animal natures. We are half animal, half spiritual, okay? There is a tension built into us as human beings between our consciousness and our spirituality and this body, which has its own laws. The body is very unruly. We still don't understand hormones. We still don't understand mating rituals or the way nature...
The primal...
There's a primal drive, an instinctual drive that sex is, that may not be fully integrated, okay, or is not possible maybe to harmonize, okay, our animal bodies with our spiritual minds, and that there's something going on. The Catholic Church for centuries, see, I rebelled against the Church. I hated its dogma in the 1950s and so on, but it may be that the Catholic Church was able to organize these energies better, okay, this idea that, oh, the Church is simply anti-sexual, this is so passé, and so on. Maybe there is something turbulent and Dionysian and uncontrollable, all right, in our sexual natures that religion helped to contain,
to control,
to restrain.
But this caused also lots of problems.
Tremendous problems.
Conflicts and so on.
Tremendous conflicts. But now I look at my own life and those of my sexually liberated friends, and I say, who is happier, the people that I know who are sexually liberated, or the people who are my relatives who are still very conventional and religious and have settled married lives? And I have to say, in terms of happiness, okay, the people who I know who are most religious and have most faith as Catholics are happier than those of us who have thrown over all the old conventions and norms.
Well, this is something, the happiness is something so...
Right.
It's not easy to... But no. Anyway, don't you think it's funny, after all this knowledge, that people are still tortured, as you said, by sex? That's
right. It's interesting. 2,000 years after Christ, okay, we still have no answer to any deep question about sex. No. We are still as up in the air as Aeschylus or Homer or Thomas Aquinas was. Okay, this is what I'm saying in my work. That feminism claims it has the answer to the sexual problem. Men are the problem. Patriarchy is the problem. When you make men behave according to what women want, there'll be no problem. Nonsense, I'm saying. It's far more complex than that.
But people today are more afraid of sex.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the AIDS.
Yes.
I'm not talking about
That's correct.
I'm talking about the personal stuff.
That's correct. Right. That's exactly right. We of the sexual revolution thought it was going to be very easy. Okay. We thought we would simply throw over those old rules and everything would come naturally, but it hasn't. On the contrary, we are still totally in the dark about sexuality.
But they are afraid of sex or afraid of feelings of love or what?
Our whole idea of personality in the Western sense is very brittle. It's very sharp-edged. Okay. And I think that's what we've done. We've created these rigid Apollonian personalities, and then Dionysus is this huge stormy force out there that threatens to break into, to disrupt, and to shatter our normal selves. So that's why I think we have to go outside the Western tradition. Again, look to Hinduism, to Buddhism, to discover other ways of understanding sexuality and nature. Mm-hmm.
You talked about a war between men and women. Mm-hmm. What is this war like?
It's coming from the fact that every boy is born from a female body, okay? No, every boy has to escape from the shadow of his mother to become a man. No woman ever suffers from the kind of sexual anxiety that every man suffers, okay? Every time a man has sex with a woman, he is being drawn backward through time, regressing with this magnetism back toward the womb from which he came. I think there is anxiety under every single act of intercourse that a man has with a woman.
this is the war, this is the reason
Yes,
of the war.
and it's coming from
he
nature.
Is against this instinct.
Well, no, what it is that he has been born from this great goddess figure that is his mother, okay? And he has to break free of it to become a man. But there's always the danger he can fall back into it. If for example, a man becomes impotent, okay? He has all kinds of memories of being totally under this woman's power again. I think men fear women enormously. See, feminism says that men hate women. They speak of misogyny. That is not true. I think men fear women. That is part of the whole mystique of sexuality. See, that again, I think that men worship women but fear them. I hate this thing which feminism is obsessed with, that men look down at women, insult them, and degrade them. I don't think the exposure of any nude female body is degrading. Not at all. I think men are in awe of the female body.
And you said that men and women misunderstood each other because the sexual desire is different. What is the difference?
Well, I do feel that there's a tremendous hormonal difference. As far as we know, men have 8 to 20 times the level of testosterone that women have, okay? And it seems fairly clear from the evidence that if you inject male hormone into a woman, she'll have a tremendous surge of sexual desire. And similarly, if you inject female hormone into a man, as you do when transsexuals are taking pills, okay, you know, to dose themselves, you see a falling of sexual desire. And you see, I think that that's true. And that not only that, but that men's sexuality is concentrated in one area. It's compartmentalized. Women's sexuality is diffused throughout her body. It's all over.
All over the body.
Yeah.
But are you trying to say that women have less sexuality than men?
I think that men are more driven, okay, by a mechanical and kind of almost abstract and amoral sex impulse. I think it's in nature's best interest to have men be promiscuous. When I was in the 60s, as a college student, I thought that the double standard was a false rule of decorum that had been imposed by men on women, and we were determined in the 60s to break that. So I tried to be promiscuous as my men friends, and I failed. I failed because I began to feel that nature does not want women to be promiscuous, okay? That there's something in a woman that says, keep the birth canal clean, you see? And so what my male friends would say to me, well, what's the problem? We're having all this sex with other men and so on, and they would say, we're having all this sodomy with other men. I say, I'm sorry, you know, having anal sex is not the same thing as having vaginal sex, okay? That is when a gay man is sodomized, okay, anally, he is not invaded into the secret cell of his inner nature, okay? A woman's identity as a sexual being is her womb. It is the vagina. It's not the same thing as anal sex. I'm sorry, it isn't. And so I began to feel that, here's my conclusion after so many decades, I'm 45 years old now, and I concluded that a man can be promiscuous his entire life and be a rational and lovable and honorable man. If a woman is promiscuous in her 30s, as opposed to an experimental stage in her 20s, okay? If she continues to be promiscuous in her 30s or 40s, there's something wrong with her. She's a neurotic. I believe that now. And that is not something coming, I don't think, from any social standard. I think it's something from nature.
But what do you mean by promiscuous in a woman?
I mean, in the way one would be in college, one-night stands, like several times a week. Like, for example, gay men in their 40s, okay, can have 3 or 4 different sexual encounters in the space of a week. They can just go out to a bar and have several encounters, and that's it, okay?
And a woman?
I see nothing wrong with that. I mean, I don't see that they've lost anything by that, okay? They really haven't, because they've never allowed any penetration into their deepest identity. A woman who is having sex with strangers, 3 or 4 different strangers every week, and not being paid for it, because I honor the prostitute. I honor the prostitute. I'm saying a woman who is unpaid, who just is doing it for fun, she is out of control of her life, okay? And I conclude that from my observations. I feel it's really true. There is a reason for the double standard. I think that the prostitute, okay, is a woman who it shows a woman's control over the sexual realm. To me, the prostitute is a kind of goddess figure. It goes all the way back to antiquity.
I understand. I understand your magic vision.
Yes.
But in a practical way, when you say unpaid or paid, it seems so pragmatic to me, you know?
Well, to me, see, to me, the prostitute is a professional. She's a professional. She, to me, is an artist. She's a psychologist. She's a dancer, okay? And she's a businesswoman. And I think that she's in control of the situation. She's in control of the men, and the men know it. All men know that the prostitutes are in charge of every situation. A lot of men in America just go and talk to the prostitute and pay.
But if you say that men fear women, so all the women are basically in control.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Woman is in control of the sexual and emotional realm.
And do you think, I'm sorry, men allow women to be in charge?
Well, I think that men are in rebellion against it on one level. All right. I think that some men suffer from that their entire lives. Their resentful sense. I think men fear what women say to each other about them, because it's really true. This is something worldwide, that women exchange all kinds of confidences about men that men never do about the women. Okay. This is known in America, that women chat with each each other, and men in America, there are articles about it, are horrified, like the husbands and the lovers, horrified when they learn that the wife, right, has been chatting with all the female friends about their sexual problems and so on. There's a kind of complicity or intimacy among women that goes back centuries.
Not between men?
No, no. Men never discuss private matters with each other. They discuss external matters. They discuss sports or the news or whatever. And in America, at least, you know, this is why so many, when you have one member of a married pair dying, okay, the man, if he survives the woman, dies almost immediately because he is incapable of making friendships outside. The woman was his tie to the whole world, okay? But when a man dies, a woman can be a widow for 30, 40 years, go right on, make new friends and so on. This is well known how widows survive for 30 years and widowers are prone to die within 6 months, okay? Because men are frail. It's women who orient men toward reality, right? And I think that feminism has neglected this entirely. I don't get along with men on the emotional level. I'm attracted to them physically. I feel a mating thing that's absolutely instinctual. I'm extremely attracted to masculine men. Mm-hmm. But I don't get along with them because men always try to boss you around. And you know, I'm one of the most aggressive women in the world, right? I hear all these years I had that book, Sexual Personing, in my head. Can you imagine trying to have a date with a man who's trying to argue with Camille Paglia about religion, about art? I mean, even now, 3 years after my book is out, right, in America, people still don't understand my book. So this has made it impossible. Because women, when you date women are not concerned with arguing with you about philosophy, about things. Men have to win every argument. So now my relations with men are much better. Since I appeared with the book, men are in love with this dominatrix persona that I have. I receive love letters from all over the world, proposals of marriage, name it. Men love this now that my superiority has been established.
Was your first sexual relationship with men or with women?
I think I was fooling around with boys first, okay? But I was in love with women early on. In love with women, but fooling around physically with boys. Then the physical thing happened with women. But you see, in that age, I mean, it's a period where even now, if you are falling in love with women, you must be gay. And I fell into that trap. And see, and I don't like it. I think that bisexuality is every woman's reach. That bisexuality is a talent that women have, and that I feel that I and many other lesbian feminists today had painted myself into a corner with this thing that, well, I'm gay. Okay, so the point, if there's something was going on with a man in a room, I would say, well, no, I can't be responding to this because I'm gay. And that's a terrible trap. And I'm trying to break the power of lesbian feminism, which I think is destroying a whole generation of young women. And what it does to them is it stunts them at a 12 or 13-year-old level of attitude toward men. Men are like, they're sort of petty and whining about men. Oh, men, like that. It's part of an adult woman's maturity to accept her sexual power over men. So I'm not saying for women to stop sleeping with women or stop being with women. I'm saying accept the fact that lust that men direct toward you is not an insult. It's a homage. Lust is the homage that men pay to women, okay? And stop going around trying to censor everything and saying, oh, like right now, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, the annual issue, the feminists are up in arms, okay? This is degrading to women. What is degrading to women? To see a beautiful woman against nature. What is degrading? You know, but we're honoring. I mean, any man looking at that issue doesn't look, oh, look at that woman. They're not looking down at her. They feel awed. They know that if they were in her presence, that they would know what to say.
Why do you think women have this kind of censorship against this nude or why?
In America, it's an Anglo-Saxon Puritanism that we are still under the influence of. England has it, and America has it. I, as an Italian, Madonna as an Italian, we have a Mediterranean sense of beauty, of sensuality. Art is in our genes, okay? The sense of beauty. The word beautiful was the earliest word I remember. My grandmother would say, bella, bella, this is that. Beautiful man, beautiful table, beautiful flowers, okay? And I think that there's a phobia about beauty in England and America that came from our Puritan background. It's appalling, and it has produced a lot of anti-art bias in current feminism. We have someone like Gloria Steinem who says that Picasso is not a major artist. He's not even an artist because of the way he treated women in real life. We have Philistines in charge of the feminist movement. There can be no feminism, okay, without honoring art. That's a revolution that I'm bringing about.
You said that you are very powerful in your career and in your thoughts, but your personal problem or your sexual emotional problem are messy.
Oh, terrible! Yes, Freud says there are two areas of life: to work and to love. And in the area of work, I am superb. I'm a colossus. Okay, but in the area of love, my life has been a disaster. I've had 3 relationships with women, major ones. All right, but they all failed in some way. I've tried to have relationships with men. I don't think it works for me because I'm too independent. And I think that, here I am, sex diva of the world, and I have as much trouble getting a date as Madonna. Madonna has that trouble too. Our dating life is terrible, okay? And I think that that's a problem that every very talented and assertive woman faces actually in history. Because, you have so many examples. The great women novelists and poets have tended to be either unmarried or, if they were married, childless. There are very few examples of great, like Jane Austen, the Brontes, Emily Dickinson, Virginia Woolf. She was with her husband, but it was kind of a white marriage and so on without sex. And so I think that women really do have a problem integrating career obsessiveness, with a satisfactory love life. If you're a man, you can simply marry a wife who supports you.
You said also that the feminism, the feminists they have a kind of sexophobia.
Yes, they do. In America, they do. Okay, and you see, what I'm saying is it's much bigger than merely sex. I'm saying that it's part of a hostility to beauty and to pleasure and to art that is part of our heritage. And sex has gotten swept into it here. But it's appalling what our smartest young women are learning at Harvard, at Princeton, at Yale, at Berkeley. It's appalling, the poison propaganda that's being injected into their minds, where you have women, like a woman at Princeton. I went to a lecture by this woman professor at Princeton, feminist professor. It's in my book, where she has these beautiful images from fashion magazines of the moment. She puts them in slides on the wall and uses words like amputation, mutilation, decapitation, and all these young
sex
women,
object.
Awful words. It's psychotic, okay? And I'm trying to liberate young women, okay? This is why so many, 85% of young women in America don't identify with the word feminist, okay? Because feminism has become, it's fanatical, it's obsessive, it is unsophisticated, it's provincial, okay? And feminism deserves better than this. 200 years of feminism go back from me, all the way back to Mary Wollstonecraft, okay, in the late 18th century, okay? And I will not accept how a bunch of New York, establishment feminists tell me, okay, about the history of feminism when they are the ones who are injuring it. They are damaging it in this country, okay? And I'm the rescuer. I am the avenger. I am the avenger for hundreds and thousands of women and men who have been harassed and silenced, okay, by these Stalinists. They're Stalinists, okay?
And so they try to destroy the sexual power.
That's right. Yes.
And of a woman, of course, and to dismiss the femme fatale, as you said.
That's exactly right. Before I published my book, the idea of the femme fatale was considered by current feminism to be part of the baggage of the past.
Why?
See,
why?
Because to them it's misogyny, men's hatred of women, the femme fatale thing. Because these women are career women. They don't feel comfortable with the idea of women having sexual power. They're not comfortable with their own sexuality. Now, see, what I've done is I have said we cannot understand who we are as women until we look to the entire past of the mythology of the world. Because in my research over all these decades, I saw that again and again and again the femme fatale motif appeared, okay? And right down to Basic Instinct, okay? That is the movie Basic Instinct, which was attacked by gay activists, by feminists, and so on. I found a wonderful movie showing woman's dominance in the sexual realm. The scene in which Sharon Stone sits there with the male interrogator.
And she moves the legs and shows the sex.
Flashes her sex. The men are reduced to jelly. Here she is in the citadel of male power with all these male authority figures, and she reduces them to jelly. She's so confident. That is a very great moment in history of women.
But I didn't understand why. You didn't explain exactly why, specifically why the feminists are so uncomfortable with this woman, the beauty or the object of desire of the sexual stuff.
In my analysis, okay, and I'm still working it out, I believe it is a white middle-class problem in this country. I noticed that African-American women don't have this problem. Latino women in this country don't have this problem, okay? What we have here is symptomatic of the crisis of the white bourgeoisie, in my opinion, okay? And that's what we have to analyze. Middle-class personality, as defined in America, it's the heritage, of course, of what was going on in Germany and in France 100 years ago, but nevertheless, it's extraordinarily sanitized and sexless. In my opinion, a lot of these major feminists have in some way suffered from an early relationship with a man where they, the women, were weak, okay? Karen DeCrow, for example, the former head of NOW in this country, she just was an ordinary housewife. She worked her husband through law school, okay? Suddenly, when he became a lawyer, he dumped her. He dropped her, okay? He went on to another younger woman. She was enraged. She became a feminist, okay? I've seen that pattern repeatedly. Marilyn French is an example, okay? So many examples. I have never been weak toward men. This is why I don't have that rage.
Feminism rage.
Feminism has become a mask, okay, for women who are weak to complain to each other about their weakness. My feminism stresses strong women, strong men. I don't want men to be castrated. I don't want men to be weak. I hate submissive men. I come from an Italian culture. We don't have wimps in Italian culture, okay? Italian men are beautiful. Italian men are strong. They're impossible. Impossible. Like my father or like Madonna's father. They're authoritarian, okay? You have to get away from them. But they're strong, positive, charismatic figures. You see? My feminism, I don't have to cut men down. I don't want men to be like, oh, what should we do now? Tell us, women, what should we... Women should not be defining men. It's up to men to define who they are, okay? I don't like a feminism that wants to make men like women, because a man will never be a woman. Women will always get along better with each other than they do with men, okay? You see, that's what I'm saying.
You talk about Madonna.
Yes.
You said that she was the future of the feminism.
Yes.
Can you explain it better?
Well, I feel that Madonna has been, unfortunately, Madonna is in a low period right now, okay? And Madonna's recent work has been very poor. Her book, even though it sold a lot, was terrible, okay? It was badly put together, very boring and derivative.
Was it erotic?
Not for me at all. I thought it was extremely boring. If I had been able to help her, I could have helped her in 3 hours. I could have saved that book, okay?
Tell me how?
Oh, it's a mess. The book is a mess. The book is just thrown together. The images are just thrown together. Color is used chaotically. I wrote a bad review of it for Us magazine.
What would you do?
I would have said to her, Madonna, okay, I would have said to her, first of all, these verbal things, word things that are in there, they're interesting, but they need work, okay? They need work, they need to be developed, okay? So like a teacher with a student, we'd work on them, okay? And then I'd say, now, do not use all these different kinds of typefaces. That makes no sense. Don't just throw, like confetti, throw typefaces at the page, okay? You should have one typeface for the voice. It should be one voice. I would have said this, the way everything is like put on the page sometimes. It looks like a high school yearbook.
But for instance, do you study, I think you did, lots of sexual fantasies?
Yes.
What are the most common?
Well, no,
to use in a book like Sex.
No, what I'm saying is that the problem with that book is that it's unsexy. Madonna, the only sexy thing in that book is when Madonna's alone. Because Madonna on her own...
What is sexy for you?
What is sexy for me? It is full sexual display of the body. It's, you know, to me, I mean, I love pornography. And see, since I know so much about, I know a lot about pornography. That's why I can judge Madonna's book as deficient. It is very mediocre. It is a mediocre book, okay?
What kind of pornography?
I love the most explicit pornography, absolutely the most explicit from the whole history of mankind. I love to look at like, you know, pornographic Greek vases, at pornography on the front of Hindu temples, at Rabelais, you know, illustrations, and you know, Aretino.
Pornography turns you on?
Yes, absolutely. Right down to the grossest and cheapest examples of pornography from today. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
And you said that a woman is usually to be afraid of being sexy, because she thinks that the other women are going to kill her. You know, she's afraid of the envy of the others.
There is a competitiveness among women, there's no doubt, okay, for men. I think there are a lot of tensions going on, and feminism says, oh, women are all sisters, and they should, you know, and I'm saying, again, we cannot underestimate the power of sex. Sex is an enormous driving force, and it may be irrational. It's instinctual. And I think the competitiveness among women for men, or among men for women, is something that may be coming from nature, and that we may have to accept competitiveness and aggression as part of human behavior. That's what I'm saying in my work.
So it's natural. It's something.
It's natural.
But can you trust a woman?
I can, okay, because I don't compete with them. You know, I noticed, it was interesting, I never go to parties in New York, okay, because I'm a scholar and I don't like parties, but I went to one party in honor of Tina Brown, who had left, a great editor who had left the Vanity Fair and was now going to the New Yorker, okay, so I went to a party, and because I wanted to look good, I had professional makeup done, and I was wearing an Adrienne Vittadini suit, okay. Now, I am so used to getting along well with women, very well, I suddenly realized, and I couldn't figure out until later, that there were many women who were treating me coolly in the room, and the reason was that here am I, this total Amazon, I'm totally like a nun, yet I look so good in full makeup, that there was a thing of, well, what is she doing on our turf? There was a real turf defense. I couldn't figure out why. Normally I connect very well with women, you see, because I'm not competitive with them for men, okay? But because I was so glamorous that night, I was being perceived. I thought, this is very interesting. And I hear that from my women students too, that women dress for other women. Women don't dress for men. Men never notice anything, okay? The women notice everything, every single thing. Oh, she wore that last week, like that. Oh, yes.
But do you mind of being glamorous, or you say, oh, who cares? They envy me. As long as you were fabulous. I
call my feminism drag queen feminism. See, because I learned how to be a woman from drag queens. Okay, see, that's my attitude. There's a great movie based on a book, Anti-Mame. Okay, that has the glamorous Anti-Mame, and then the very clerical and dowdy Agnes Gooch, her secretary. And I feel those are the two parts of my personality. Okay, and I feel like a drag queen. I dress up to be a woman, and then I can do it like for a day. Be queen for a day. But then I go home and I put on old clothes and I just like knock around. I don't feel sexy. My real self is not sexy. See, so that's my problem, I think, is that the personal interactions that lead to relationships are missing in me because my real self, I'm so used to being totally self-sufficient. I'm like male and female in myself alone. I'm married to myself in some way. If I knew when I was 16 and trying to date, okay, if I knew then what I know now about men, my dating life would have been a lot better, okay, because I thought that men were tyrants. I did, at age 12, 13, I thought men are terrible, men are tyrants, and they're always making women suffer and they're using women. As the decades went on, I began to see that men are frail. The male ego is very fragile, and
they are weaker than women.
Much weaker, and that women are supporting them out of their maternal love. And now see that the strong relationships between men and women, the women are actually building the men's confidence day after day after day after day. Men need maintenance. Men need tending, like a plant, okay? And I begin to realize that my failure in relationships with men comes from the fact that I will not nurse them. I don't like to nurse them. I'm not a nurse, okay? I'm not a mother. And that's what's missing. I'm attracting them sexually, but I don't have any nursing ability. See, that's that. And so I now realize that the maternal woman is the dominant sexual persona of the universe, and that everyone knows this except feminists. Only the feminists don't know this. Men know it, and women know it. I believe this is true worldwide.
Well, this is different from the macho vision of a man.
Well, you see, what I'm saying in my work, and this is from long study, is that the entire macho world that's been created, the entire world of technology, of sport, of war, of achievement, that was part of man's flight from woman. Woman's power was so enormous that man was forced to escape from her and create these alternate systems because woman has power over nature.
It's not true, the system?
Well, the system itself eventually became, oppressive in its own way, but it also became something that a woman could enter. Modern woman, that's what feminism is. Feminism is all about seeking the full political and legal equality of women, and that's what I as a feminist, am behind. But what I'm saying is that we're just asking for equality in this frame, the social frame, that there's a turbulence going outside the frame, okay, in the sexual realm, in the emotional realm, and that's where woman is dominant, okay? Man flees from this chaos into that social structure, okay? So I have this idea of the Apollonian and the Dionysian. The social structure is the Apollonian, and the problem with our yuppie careerist feminists in America is that they define themselves totally with their careers. But Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity teach you are much greater than your social self.
But I interviewed some very strong women, and they say that they usually minimize themselves to not scare men.
Yes, this is true. Right. Yes, you have to learn how. For a woman to succeed in a career, you have to learn how to find the right persona for leadership. It took me a long while to figure out what would work. In my career, I had a very bad. I was fired from one job. I couldn't get a job. I've been on the unemployment line. I've been poor, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a very interesting problem. Like in America, we have something called the glass ceiling. That is women are promoted to middle management in companies, but then fail to achieve the top level of the board or chairman of the board, okay? And so I'm asking, my question is, what is the ideal persona for female leadership? In my opinion, the Texas feminists, Governor Ann Richards, okay, for example, have solved this problem. You see, the Texas women, because they deal with real men, they deal with nature and men who still wear cowboy boots and are tough. If you can control a Texas man, you can control any man in the world, you see.
You were a lesbian. You were bisexual.
For 20 years. I'm now officially bisexual, I call myself.
Well, and what kind of conflict you had from this?
I had tremendous conflict because usually once you admit you're gay, then you're happy. But my situation, I would define myself as gay, and then lesbians hate me. Lesbians have never liked me. Gay men love me. I love gay men. Okay. Straight women like me, and I began to realize as the decades went on, okay, that the reason lesbians don't like me is I'm too male. I'm too man-like. My energy level is so intense. The reason they don't like me is the reason they don't like men. And so now I feel that exclusive lesbianism is a dead end. It is childish. It is childish. I'm saying women should be bisexual, not merely lesbian. It is not. Where are all the great achievements of lesbian art, of lesbian film, of lesbian? Oh, please, they're children. You find 45-year-old, 50-year-old lesbians with childish notions about men. They're afraid of life. They define everything in the world as patriarchy. They have created a ghetto for themselves that I think is a disaster for young women.
You said that gay men seek sex without emotion, and lesbian often ended up with an emotion without sex.
Correct.
Why this difference?
I feel that lesbians are really looking for their mothers, okay, and they're falling back into an infantile state, pre-sexual state. That's why they bond and fuse with each other, and they found their mothers in each other. Gay men are seeking to escape their mothers, okay, the power of their mothers, okay. Whether they love their mothers and honor them or hated their mothers, they're seeking to escape from woman's power. And I think that in that movement away from women, gay men have contributed so much to culture. I love gay men. I have such identity of sensibility with gay men. I have such shared taste with gay men. They have influenced me enormously. Gay men and art are totally intertwined for all of Western culture. Not lesbians. Lesbians have nothing to do with art. Lesbians hate art on the whole. I can't stand it. Yeah.
You said that you are almost a nun now.
I am a nun. I'm a nun.
Why? Are you in abstinence?
My cousin's a
Sexual
nun.
abstinence?
I haven't had a date in a year, okay, for example, okay?
No sex at all?
No.
In a year?
My last date was fall of 1991. Okay, that shows you how bad it is for me, okay?
Why?
Who can explain this? I think that fates give you talent in one area and then they deprive you in the other. But you see, I mean, here I'm looking. See, now and then I have met some men on the road when I'm on my speaking engagements. I've met some men that seemed appropriate, but they never seem to be near me. Near me in Philadelphia, people are too intimidated to ask me for a date. Okay, I think my problem with lesbians is that again I don't have any shared anything with them. So I'm looking constantly for both men and women, and I fail always. See, at this point in my life, I'm 45, okay? And the thing is,
You're young.
Yes, but you see, at this point, I'm not going to just sleep around. And I am so interested in myself that I have to be very interested in someone now to devote the time to them. And I don't want anyone's negative energy. I hate people's doubts and self-doubts and lack of self-confidence. I don't want to spend my life being a cheerleader to get people up out of their despair and their resignation. See, I am so psyched up. I am so self-motivated, okay, that I have to be around other people who are equally self-motivated. But where are they? Someone like Madonna, we are on the same level of self-motivation, but we couldn't stand each other because we're both divas. Two divas are not going to get along. So, see, basically I need a wife, okay? If I were a man, I'd have a wife who was like 20 years younger than me, who was devoted to me and kept my house for me and just basically fell into my, my lifestyle. That's impossible.
But you are so intense. Don't you feel lack of sex?
Well, I think that because my personality was formed kind of in the pre-puberty period, okay, I think that I'm completely sexual. I mean, my entire attitude toward life is sexual, okay, and I'm so playful, and I'm so sensory in my attitude toward food and toward laughing and toward energy and so on. And I think that I'm just completely self-sufficient, and that is true of many artists in history, Michelangelo, Leonardo, but they were depressives. I'm not depressed at all. I'm always upbeat. Yeah. Yeah.
And are you never wrong?
I am never wrong in my work, but I'm always wrong in love.
Why you're never wrong in your work?
Because I am a careful scholar. You see, by the time you get to me, I've been several decades of work. At this point, when I make a statement, it's usually the result of so many years of study.
I understand. And why are you wrong in love?
Well, because Dionysus is as I said, is a maelstrom. The Dionysian is no picnic, okay? Because it's the whole realm of the irrational. I can't control it. I mean, and so when I'm in love, I completely fall apart. Completely, I turn to jelly. It is awful. It is pathetic, which is one reason why I'm very careful, okay? Because I don't like how I get into this. I mean, I become addicted. It's like an addicted thing. I mean, here I am very happily going along from day to day, pleasing myself. Then I'm in love, and now I have to see the person, every day, and what are you doing, and what am I going to see? I mean, I hate that. I hate that.
Obsessed.
Yes, I become dependent and obsessed, and I dislike that. I love my autonomy as a woman.
And are you in love with yourself?
I am totally in love with myself. I have called it the romance of the century. Yes.
That's great, Camille.
Right.
And your audience is also in love with
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much for this interview.
It's been a pleasure. All right, great. All right. All right.
Nice to
Thank you.
meet
All right,
you,
great. Nice to meet
Camille.
you.